We're here in drizzly Norfolk for the weekend. It's the tail end of February and it's raining a lot, but a bit of water never hurt anybody, did it?
I think you're forgetting Dr. Foster, who went to Gloucester. Welcome to my mini adventures!
In this week's episode,
we get ourselves over to Hickling Broad and have a quick catch up with the centre's senior coordinator, Rachel Frayne. We then head up the coast to see the seals at Horsey Gap and have a chat with Mike Harmer. We sample the cuisine at Chico's in Great Yarmouth. And finally, we're off to meet wildlife artist Russ Helsden at Strumpshaw Fen. And so, we're off on our first calling, and that's the Norfolk Wildlife Trust's Hickling Broad. It's about a 35-minute drive from our hotel in Great Yarmouth. Getting here is no problem at all. Just follow your sat-nav, it'll get you here eventually. It's a really wet and windy day, and I think Storm George is on his way. Hang on a second, is that a little bald patch on the back of your head? No, it's just a short haircut. Okay. Anyway, this place is absolutely lovely. Let me just introduce you to Rachel before I put my foot in it again.
So, I'm Rachel Frayne, I'm the Senior Visitor Centre Coordinator here at Hickling Broad, and I look after the team of volunteers that will welcome you when you come to see us.
And it certainly is a very welcoming place.
So how big is the reserve?
So, Hickling Broad is about 600 hectares in size, and that's made up of obviously the Broad itself, which to many people would be known as a lake, and then we've got woodland and fenland, and we've got some marshland as well.
So what wildlife do you have here at Hickling Broad?
Wow, what kind of wildlife don't we have at Hickling? No, the key species for us would be marsh harrier. So this time of the year particularly, the winter months, fantastic for marsh harrier. And we can have them in numbers up to 100 can be seen at our roosting point of an evening, so that's really amazing. Going throughout the year, we then have crane all year round, very special to this site as it was the Broads where they first reintroduced themselves naturally. Into the summer, we're a great place to come if you want to see dragonflies, butterflies, and our specialist species would be the swallowtail.
And is it an all year round place to visit?
Absolutely. So as we already said, the winter time is fabulous for raptors, and it's a great time to see things because there's no foliage on the trees and the shrubs, so it's brilliant to be able to see lots of wildlife. Moving into the springtime, you get the dragonflies, the butterflies again, and then other bird life. We have the migratory species come over, so the warblers come back to see us in the spring. And of course, as I said, cranes all year round, great chance of seeing things like that. The bittern, I forgot to mention him the first time round, he's one of our key species as well, and it's spring is one of the very best times that you can come and see and possibly hear the bittern booming.
How many visitors do you get through the door in a year?
So currently our visitor centre operational hours are 10 till 5 daily between April and the end of October. And then we go to weekend opening in the winter. So throughout November all the way through to March, we have weekend opening. During those times, we've recorded about 13,000 visitors to the site. And of course, you've then got extra people coming along when the centre's not open that we don't record.
Okay, let's get your top 3 reasons why to visit Hickling Broad. Number 1.
So the first of all is the species that you might see when you're here. So we talked about crane, fabulous if you can spot one of the biggest birds in the UK. We have bittern, if you can't see them, the chances of hearing them are pretty good. Harriers, marsh harriers, that's one of our specialist species. We've got the swallowtail butterfly, the largest of the UK butterflies and only seen in the Broadland habitat. And finally, the Norfolk Hawker dragonfly.
Number 2.
Is our fantastic guided boat trip. And this is something that we run every single day during the summer months and 3 times a day. So in the morning you can go out with our guided boat operator who'll show you the wildlife and tell you about the history of Hickling Broad for 2 hours. And that tour includes 2 hides that you can't actually access by foot and also a 60-foot tree tower giving you fantastic views across the area. The afternoon trips are just an hour, so if you're short on time, either of our afternoon trips are a good choice to make as well.
And number 3.
So number 3 would have to be the visitor centre and the facilities that Hickling provides. We have a fabulous centre with a great team of volunteers who are waiting to welcome you when you come and visit, along with a lovely shop with some beautiful retail products that you can buy as gifts or presents to yourself.
Presents for myself, eh? Okay then, chocolate, cake, chocolate.
Just said chocolate.
I like chocolate though.
Come on, we've got to go.
Alright, keep your hair on.
It's a short haircut for the last time.
I just want to say a big thank you to Rachel and the volunteers at the centre. The Norfolk Wildlife Trust have done a really good job here. You could easily waste a day here. No, waste is not the right word. And even though I've got a very busy schedule, I need to have a little look around. Must see if I can see those cranes. That is definitely a little bit thinning, I'm sure. I am going to punch you. Winter is ideal for getting a hide to yourself. Come the summer, this place will be packed.
So we've just arrived at the Bitton Hide, and there's plenty of geese about, all flying in formation, which is lovely. There goes two now. Probably seen about 4 or 5 marsh harriers. I think they're pairing up now, so I've just got some great photographs. Hopefully got some great photographs. There's a couple of lily egrets out there as well, and lots of duck. Just seen some teal fly into the swimming at the front here. No bittens yet. Not heard any. Oh, what was that? No. I keep thinking I hear that blowing into a bottle sound that the bittern makes. Ooh, that sort of sound. That's what I'm listening out for anyway. Luckily, the good people of Viking Optical lent me this for the weekend. It's a spotting scope, and I can definitely see my subject a lot closer. But as I just had the marsh harrier in view then, it came so close I just switched to my camera and yeah, hopefully got some good shots. But the sun's coming out now, which is good, and wind's still quite strong, but then that's fine. No sign of the cranes yet, but we'll keep looking.
No one likes lugging gear around, especially me on a big shoot. But this scope, although it's quite big, is actually really, really useful. I've seen so much more detail with this than I would with my binoculars. Even though my binoculars are my best friends, but you know. It's suddenly gone very quiet out there. And then all of a sudden, the ducks are up, and you know there's a marshy on the wing. And there she is. That is such an awesome bird. I could watch her for hours.
Okay, this is right.
Right, time's ticking and we've got to move on. Thank God for this good weather. Yes! I did manage to see some cranes, but they were way too far away to get a picture. But it was lovely to see them anyway. Whether you're local, just passing by, or on holiday, go and check out Hickling Broad. It's a great place to visit, and there's so much to see. We've got to move on to our next feature, and hopefully the weather will stay like this. We're back on the road again, and this time it's 25 minutes to the coast to Horsey Gap. This weather is awesome. I can't ask for much more than this. I might even get a little bit of a tan.
Yeah, you got to be a bit careful with the top of your head though.
Ooh. enough of that joke. It's just a short haircut. Alright. Horsey Beach is one of the many unspoilt, wonderful, quiet, sandy Norfolk beaches on the east coast of the UK. There's plenty of places to park, including Horsey Gap, Horsey Wind Pump, or the Nelson Head pub. But this beach isn't just any beach. It's got a huge attraction of being a fantastic place to come and see, wait for it, the seals! In fact, loads of seals. There are literally hundreds of seals here. It's a spectacular view. The pups aren't here, so the parents are quite relaxed, so you can get quite close, but obviously don't get too close. So we catch up with Mike Harmer. He's one of the friends of Horsey Beach seals.
Well, we're Horsey, which is North Norfolk. It's on the east of North Norfolk, and we've had seals now here for 2002 was our first pup. So we only had a small colony from basically, they started at Blakeney, which is just down the road here. So Blakeney has a special island where we have common seals, harbour seals. They mate and they pup in August, September. But here we have a colony now of about 3,000 seals. We had 2,500 pups this year, and they come to the beach around about October's our first one. Right. So October time they come, and they come here. We have about, in the sort of peak of the season, so which is about November, end of November, beginning of December, we have about 700 berths. So yeah, if you're lucky enough to come here, then you can see berths. This is cordoned off. We have the beach cordoned off, and that's to protect the pups. The mums can be quite spooked. Yes. So if you get too close to them, what will happen is the mums will retreat back into the water and leave the pup. So we get abandoned pups. Yes. So at the moment you can stand on the dunes and watch, but I mean you get great views. I mean absolutely fantastic views. Like I say, 700 pups in. It's absolutely amazing that week. So that's brilliant. And then we end that sort of around January is our last sort of pup born. Okay. Now what happens with the life cycle of the pups is they get born. So the mums will come onto the beach. They'll be born, and then about 4 weeks the mum will feed them. Mum's milk is extremely fatty, about 6% is fat. So she'll feed them, and then she basically leaves them. And they're born in the white, so they've got this fluffy, what we call this fluffy coat. That coat's purely for insulation, not for anything else, and it's not waterproof. So they can't follow her. Even if they wanted to, they can't follow her. So she leaves them. I mean, the worst parents in the world, really. She leaves them, goes into the water to feed. She's not fed for 5 or 6 weeks, so she's hungry. She goes off, and then basically the pup is left on the beach for about 2 weeks, lose that fur, so they'll start molting that fur, change into their waterproof coat, and then they'll go off. What you're seeing here is the molt of the adults. Right. So all the seals every year have to molt. Right. The pups have already molted, so they've already gone off. So they're making the most of the fact that no one is in the water, or these adults not in the water, so they're feeding themselves. But as you can see, you've got 2 females coming out of the water now, and they'll basically just come onto here, use the sun, use the time just to relax and chill out, and basically use their fur.
Boy, that boy can talk. But what an absolute hero. We need more people like that. People who give their time and energy back to nature. Right, let's get back on the road, back down that Norfolk coast to Great Yarmouth, and let's talk about food.
Every year, thousands of holiday makers, over 500,000 I believe.
You believe or you think that's how many people are in that train?
Under grey skies they come from the grey towns of the North and Midlands and the vast areas of London.
Not the grey towns of the North. Why, yeah, it's grim up north.
You are now on the drier side of Great Britain,
where
the climate always seems to be a little better than it is at home.
Wow, that's pretty much Barbados, isn't it?
You soon forget the old hometown worker days, making meals and clearing meals away. As the day lengthens, Sandman comes along. Punch and Judy give their last show of the day. Last pony cart makes its last trip. And evening takes the light from the sky, and the beaches are almost deserted.
No, they're not, don't lie.
And when the children are in bed, and the evening meal over, then whoopee, a new life begins.
So it's a night on the tiles for me and the boy, as we... What am I doing? Me and the boy are heading down Great Yarmouth High Street to check out a recommended restaurant. Have a jolly good evening, sir. Thank you.
Right, it's freezing cold. We're here in Great Yarmouth, and I've come over to Chico's for a lovely seafood dinner. Come and join me.
Chico's is run by, well, Chico and his very lovely wife, Maxine. The place is absolutely packed. It's obviously very popular. Oh, I've definitely struck gold here. This menu is awesome. The major problem I see here is that there's way too many good things on this menu. And as you know, Joey doesn't share food. I don't want to be suffering from food envy, that's a big problem. But check out this order.
1 calamari, please. 1 crab claws. Yep, can I have 1 more from there, please? A sea bass. Thank you so much. Thank you.
They've got a lot of choice on the menu, and it's very reasonably priced as well. Right then, cue the angels. Look, I know this may seem a little dramatic, but this food is heavenly. The crispiness of the batter around those calamaris and the butter sauce on those crab claws. Oh my god. The boy and I are absolutely mesmerised by this food. It's so tasty. Right, ladies, come back. Right, a bit louder this time, buddy. 1, 2, 3, 4. And for main, the sea bass, which is absolutely monstrous. And look at this, Moules Marinière in a gargantuous way. Oh my god. Au revoir, diet. Now we're not getting paid to do this or say this, but that's the best meal I've had in a long time. So we're finally here, our final mission, and we're off to Strumpshaw Fen to meet up with Russ, a very talented wildlife artist. I've been known to dabble in a bit of watercolour, but I haven't done it for a long time now. This is the RSPB Strumpshaw Fen. It's a great place to come with the family. I came here last year with my friend Lloyd. We saw swallowtails and Chinese water deer galore. There's only a small visitor centre here, but it's adequate enough. The view of the marsh is absolutely stunning. This beautiful open sky really does paint a picture, which is pretty apt as it goes. Right, let's go find Russ. This is Russ Heselden. He's a wildlife artist from Hingham in Norfolk. His specialist subject is nature, and whether it's bird life, flower and faunae, or landscapes, I want to find out a bit more about how he does it and his approach. So firstly, how long have you been painting for, Russ?
2 answers which seem contradictory. So first of all, kind of almost as long as I can remember, and then secondly, just for the last 8 years. So the as long as I can remember is literally, I mean, I go back and I've got notebooks, illustrated journals from when I was 5. Right. So I was even then writing down birds and mammals and trying to do little pictures of them. Yeah. And I've still got all those lined up on my shelf. And that developed into, I used to go to Sandwich Bay Bird Observatory when I was like 11, 12, 13, even cycling there at weekends with no lights. And then spend the weekend sketching and drawing. And that's part of what the people there, you know, anybody watching, you know, go to a bird observatory, they will teach you these skills, is they teach you to sketch things, because if you sketch things, you learn what they look like. And in those days, this was the 1970s, the field guides were pretty rubbish. So it was really essential, if you wanted to tell a black-tailed from a bar-tailed godwit, go out and draw it, and then you've got all the field marks there before you start forgetting them. And that progressed. I drew and I painted all the way through my teens into my early 20s. I used to enter Bird Illustrator of the Year, never really got anywhere, we just get a few drawings accepted. And then work cut in, you know, I started working and then had, you know, about 30 years when I didn't really do much at all except, you know, people's birthdays and Christmas and stuff. Yes. And then I just made this conscious choice 8 years ago that I was going to start really going out and painting again. And I kind of had free choice at that stage what I was going to do. I'd always used to paint in watercolour, and I always used to sketch in ink. And I decided I can do whatever I want now, and eventually, you know, watercolour to acrylic to oil. But then I've had to kind of teach myself the basics of that. That's been a really nice learning curve.
So what's your approach to a new painting or a new project?
I tend to not to go out with a plan at all. I'd like to go to certain places like Cley, Titchwell, mainly because they've got hides and I'm lazy and I like to set up loads of stuff around me. I have my flask and my sandwiches and my sketchbook. And if you get there early enough, the hides are always empty and you can grab a corner. And so what I like to do is just set up there, and I'll spend about the first half an hour just looking around, seeing what's there, just doing general birding. And then there'll always be a few species that catch my eye. It's often lapwings or shelduck. You know, they're my two favourite things. And then I'll start sketching those, because I always kind of forget what they look like. I don't know, even if I'd been sketching them the day before, I have to kind of get back into them again. So I spend half an hour doing heads and wings and poses, a little bit of behaviour. And then while I'm doing that, often a certain grouping of birds will grab me, and I'll start to sketch that in detail. But I used to always make the mistake of thinking that's going to make a lovely painting, and you get home and you try to kind of scale it up and then do a bigger painting of it, and it always killed it, stone dead. So what I now do is I take a series of pre-prepared boards out with me, and the preparation's easy. It's just chalk and household emulsion. So you get a piece of MDF, you paint that over, and I take the oil paints out with me, and I bleed the linseed oil out onto a piece of newspaper, and then sketch directly onto these boards, and it dries instantly. So you haven't got the problem of a wet oil painting in the car. And then, it retains the vitality of a sketch. I can just take it home and I can just carry on where I left off.
So Russ, where can we see your paintings or buy them?
I'm one of what's called the birdscapes artists. There's a gallery at Glanford, near Holt. They never have very many of my paintings up there, but you can always go and ask. There's always some in there. There's my website, and probably the best place is actually to go to my Facebook page. I've got a separate wildlife artist, Russ Heselden Wildlife Artist Facebook page. And what I do on there is, as soon as I've finished a painting, I'll post it. That's where I sell a lot of stuff through there. But I also show the stages in the painting. And sometimes I will go through and every hour just show where I've got to. Obviously there's a pause if Doctor Who or something comes on, or you'll need to eat. And then, so people can actually see how a painting builds up. And the bigger ones, I've got a really big one in the car that you'll be able to see, might take place over several days. And it's really interesting how they change, because I'll just start editing things out. That's the beauty of oil paint. You can just paint over something, you can decide you don't want this there, you want it over there. You can add in a turn, whatever you want. And people quite enjoy that. They quite enjoy watching the progress of a painting from start to finish, from sketch to finished piece. And I enjoy doing it.
So what would be your advice to any budding wildlife artist out there?
I would say go out as much as you can and sketch from life. And that's the only way to do it. I mean, again, in the early days, I used to find photographs and sketch from those. And again, that's just the moment in time. You've frozen the bird in time. And if you try to just copy that, feathers will be out of place, the pose will be wrong. So I think the only way to do it is to go out and sit in a hide, and put in the donkey work. If you're illustrating a particular species, go and find that species, if it's a bird or a mammal or a butterfly, and watch it as much as you can before you start trying to commit anything to paper. Because if you do that, the honesty will show through and the jizz of the thing will show through.
Wow, what a really nice guy, and some great advice too. Russ has very kindly agreed to walk us through one of his work in progress.
Well, this is the tern colony and seal colony at Blakeney Point. So I brought this along because it kind of shows how I would develop a painting. And obviously, the viewpoint there is actually from one of the boats, one of the Beans boats off Blakeney Point. So there's absolutely no opportunity to sketch the seals in the detail that I would want. So what I did, I took loads and loads of photographs of them, and then chose the more photogenic seals and put them into a composition. Painted lots out and painted other ones in until I got it right. And then my main idea was to have them as kind of almost wallpaper. So they're the background for the painting. So they're there, but they're not the main focus. And the main focus is really the terns coming in, because what happens in autumn is you get all the, the juvenile terns, the ones here that are begging for food, and the adults coming in with sprats. And it's kind of the interactions with those. But I didn't want it to just be a load of terns splatted in front of a load of seals. So I've worked quite hard on the composition here. But the trick is to try to make it look as if there isn't a composition when there is a composition. So in fact there's a broad kind of zigzag pattern going on here. I quite often use that. And at the ends of the zigzags, birds are facing in, so they kind of act as a full stop so your eye doesn't continue shooting out there. I've also on the focal points, which are this third here, so there's a tern there with a black-headed gull with a very sort of white blaze on it, on the head. And this one here is again on a focal point. So they're marking the kind of the apices of the zigzag. And then again, law of thirds again, so I've got a third sky, basically a third seals and a third beach.
Well, it looks absolutely fantastic.
Thank you.
Well done.
Brilliant stuff from an awesome artist, Russ Heselden. Well, as they say, all good things come to an end. We've had a really great time up here in Norfolk, met some wonderful people and some awesome places to visit. I wanted to say a big thank you to everybody who helped us get this road trip sorted. That's Rachel Frayne from the Norfolk Wildlife Trust, Mike Harmer from the Friends of Horsey Seals, Chico and Maxine from Chico's Restaurant, wildlife artist Russ Heselden, and not forgetting my son Aidan for doing his magic behind the camera.
And that's it. Norfolk done. Well, for the time being. Join us next time for some more mini adventures. So we're here in drizzly Norfolk. So you join me here in Norfolk on a very wet and windy day. We're here to eat my dog and I forgot what I was doing now. I'm shouting again. Weather's not great, but hey, the weather. So you join me here today on a very wet and squelchy Norfolk Wildlife Trust. So you join me on this very wet and windy Norfolk. No, on this very wet and windy day. But hey, a bit of weather, bit of wet weather. Aye. So you join us here at Norfolk for the weekend. And we're here, but a bit of weather. So you join us here in Norfolk on a very wet and windy weather weekend.